Over in Sundown. Hopefully everybody had a great Thanksgiving this past week. Uh, Finally got our really first good blow of the year. We've had a couple little cool fronts that's pushed in here, but this one's pretty significant. It's gonna push the water temps down, all the wind and everything that we've got coming with it. So it's gonna be just from a weather standpoint, it's gonna be a interesting week no matter what. But that said, these types of areas are where you're going to want to be in this upcoming week moving forward. You got nice amount of mushy bottom. It's not terribly unmanageable here in Sundown. If you've waded this area before, you know what it's about. The grass line edge, primarily targeting redfish and trout up in these areas like this. Um, we worked these earlier in the week with our, water levels were pretty good for the most part. And as we transitioned toward the end of this past week, water levels really picked up. Now, we're in our transition days headed toward that full moon. I would imagine that this cold front's going to push some water out of here. And with that big moon pulling some water, so I would anticipate probably some negative water levels as we move through the week, this upcoming week. So just keep that in mind. Just make sure that you're really checking your tide reports if you're going to be able to fish this coming week. So that's main things that you really kind of want to find. And again, once that water temp starts to drop, and it will, you're going to want to be able to fish deeper water, access early to shallower, muddy, or flat later in the day, as depending on how much sunshine that we get on that particular area, wherever that may be. Sundown is one of those areas that you can get both of those. You got the ICW that's right there. It runs right beside Sundown. So you may want to fish the edges of that early. Like I say, you can work all this down here. You got a little scattered shell that's in and out of that area there. But also on the outer edges, there's a little bit of bank right there next to the ICW too. You can come on down a little further, all the way down toward Mustang. If you want to fish this whole outer edge, just kind of skip your way around on there if you'd like, and fish these types of areas like that, and kind of find yourself where you're protected. That north breeze is going to be kicking majority of this upcoming week, so it'll be smart how you fish these particular areas. So mud's going to be our transition areas that we really want to be over a lot. If it's got some grass mixed in there with it, that would be a great opportunity as well. And you have to kind of feel your way about and just kind of see how the fish are reacting. Notice this past week, didn't have quite as much bait working in areas that we had fished. So that kind of comes into play as well. So you kind of have to be really smart about it. Look for your ospreys maybe working in an area that you're going to be fishing, or areas that you're going to fish. Pelicans diving on areas, and they'll set the bait line for you. So just kind of look for those kind of tendencies and those little things here. Of course, we got back up in Mustang a little bit too toward the end of the week. So temperature-wise, it was not bad at all. We were still, water temps were still 72, 75. Air temps were still upper 70s, so it was still very comfortable. Now, that's with this cold front that just pushed through here. It's gonna change things dramatically. So dress accordingly and fish accordingly. So you're up here in Mustang, you've got scattered clump shell that's in there. You've got nice mud that's in there. You got some scattered grass that's in there. And so these were areas that we really were wanting to target this past week to kind of get us ready for this front. The main baits we were throwing, we were in those transition days, so we were kind of stuck with the smaller size baits. I think maybe a 4-inch was the biggest that we threw this past week, and a lot of the burner shad, the mirror-looter little johns, the little softy, all were pretty productive for the most part. Some of this water was beat up pretty good, so your darker baits came into play, and so that's what we stuck with. That was where our game plan was, and just kind of worked all these different areas. So you had pretty much a south-southeast breeze majority of the week, a little bit of an east breeze every once in a while, a couple of days, I believe. But that said, just kind of set yourself up to where you can fish them accordingly, and say we caught redfish scattered about, nice. They were all lower to mid-slot fish. Trout were all pretty decent fish. They weren't anything big or massive. So, but that's kind of what we're starting to try to target as much as possible. Found some nice box fish in some of these areas. Not every area was holding fish for us, so we just work the smaller baits, try to position ourselves around that major or the minor, whatever time of day it would be, to give ourselves the best opportunity. So, like I say, things are drastically going to change this upcoming week, so make sure you're paying attention to your weather reports and your tide reports, because that's going to be very important. Again, with our water levels being what they were, we kind of try to get ourselves in position to fish back here behind mud and get in this area back here in these little flats. Again, as the week progressed, our water levels came up, so it really opens up a lot of these little back lake areas. You can wade back into these little spots that are here along this backside of mud. All the way down, you've got this little gut that runs right here on that bar that runs back in here. And a couple of the days we had some, pretty decent wind blowing. It wasn't terrible, but we'd get back in these lakes and just kind of work back there because you can get protection, number one. Water levels were perfect to get back in these. Just kind of work these areas back in here. Like I say, you got a lot of the right kind of structure that's in the backside in here. So just kind of work these. You got, like I say, you got decent mud that's back in there. You've got good grass that's back in there. You've got some shell pads that are in around there, and it allows those fish to bit of maneuver in around these areas. And then, of course, we get out here in the main lake and just worked all back and forth across the grass beds, the potholes, located fish in and around these areas. That's what I said earlier with the amount of water that was in here. It really sets up very nice back in this area, back behind mud. Plus, again, you get some protection from it. Spend a little time out here on the outer bar as well. Just kind of fish the drop-off edges just to see if some fish were hanging there or if they're mainly still over the grass and the mud, which primarily most of them were all in that area over that grass and mud. We're fishing waist-deep water in all this area is back in here. If you fish behind mud, you know exactly where I'm talking about. So it set up well for us. Fish responded accordingly. Now, the bite was not just super great as far as aggressiveness goes. The fish were just kind of really, really soft-mouthing it. So you had to really be patient to work these areas to get what you needed to find and catch those fish. So it took us a little bit to kind of figure out what they were doing and why they were doing what they were doing. So again, we're on the end of our transition days, headed into that full moon coming up this at the end of the week. So those 5 days that are leading up to that full moon should give you some pretty good opportunities. So your early mornings, if you're able to be out, or your late evenings when that moon's starting to come up, and it's when it's setting in the early mornings, are going to be your time frames on which you're really going to want to target. Just in my experience, during the middle of the day, during full moons, the bite becomes extremely difficult, and especially when the conditions are going to change like they're going to change for us this upcoming week. So just kind of play that scenario out in your brain there and just kind of see how you want to progress. Again, I would stick with the smaller size profiles. Water's probably going to be pretty beat up with this north wind that we're going to be having in some particular areas. So, again, you may want to incorporate something that's got a little bit of noise to it. Rattle chambers, i.e. the little softy has that. The knocking tails have that as well. And topwater bait, we have not thrown any topwater bait in a couple of weeks. So if you've got bait that's kind of working an area for you, it may not be a bad choice just to see if you got some aggressive fish that want to attack that. So that would be just something to be. Also, the Double D is another one that's good. Corky season is here now. If you're a corky fan, that'd be another great bait to throw. You can throw the smaller profile sizes of that. That's a great thing about the Pav lures. They've got a couple of different sizes in that. And, of course, another one would be the soft dine or the mirror dine, either one. So those would be some of the stuff that I would have in my box for this upcoming week in and around that full moon. So just depending on what your water clarity is and how aggressive those fish are going to be, will determine what you're going to throw and flavors that you're going to throw. So probably dirtier water, we're sticking with those darker baits with some rattle chambers that are mixed in with those, so that gives us our best opportunity to find and catch fish. This area down here off of Rattlesnake Point, you get back in there where the old Redfish Lodge used to sit. With this north wind that we're going to be having, this is a great little area that you can get into. It's got the right kind of structure there. You got mud in there. You've got some scattered grass in there. It would be really smart to be able to work that type of area. And depending on, again, what our water level is, how much water is going to drop out of here, depending on where and how you're going to be able to fish this. You get back in here in the back of Pete's Bend, all back in this area here. You've got some, again, you got the right kind of mud, scattered grass, and that's primarily what we're going to be targeting, that type of stuff. And then, of course, get back around here into Italian Bend. You got the same structure that's back in there, a lot of great grass. You got some scattered potholes that are in here. You can get on this shoreline here where these little back lakes dump out. You got some drains that are in there, and those would be things that I would be targeting for this upcoming week. This past week when we were in here, that's kind of with the water levels what they were. We did not target the drains, but this upcoming week will be something that you want to kind of focus on if you fish in this particular area. Back shoreline, all this here, and then you can shoot across over here in the Port Bay and on this west shoreline. This whole shoreline here sets up really good for you. You get some protection that's back in this edge that's out here. You got especially with a much lower tide. That's what it looks like it's going to be. It's going to be probably, we get into this upcoming Friday and Saturday, it looks like it's going to be really dropping out. But that remains to be seen exactly how much it's going to go. But something where you have an edge, where you got a little bit deeper water access to that's going to be critical for you to find and locate fish. And then, of course, you can get all the way back around here and you get really good protection on this little bend in here. And it's all good right there. You've got grass that's on it. You've got mud that's in there. As long as you got some bait that's working in and around that area, you're going to give yourself an opportunity. Again, your plastics you're going to throw, I would stick with the 4-inch, 3-inch baits, paddle tails, like the knock and tail, the down south lure, and the burner shads, the double D, your corky line that's got rattle chambers in those, all that, the little softies. Any one of those should and could give you a great opportunity to find you a quality fish hanging out in here, or if you're just looking for numbers of fish, either or. So I would anticipate that our catching will drop off somewhat, but how much that will be, that remains to be seen as well. So practice a lot of patience and just kind of stick with it. If you got the bait working and you're going to get a chance to be able to work a minor or maybe a midday major if you like, that would probably be your best opportunity to find and catch you some fish during that time frame. But weather's going to dictate a lot of stuff this upcoming week. So, again, tide reports are extremely important to make sure you pay attention to what that is. Make sure you layer up pretty well because water temps are going to drop on us. So, and that can happen overnight pretty quickly. I would anticipate our water temps after probably Tuesday or Wednesday will probably be in the low 60s, somewhere around that, maybe high 50s. Just depends on how cold it gets at nighttime and how much sunshine it gets on it the next day. So all things that are important this time of year, you knew they were coming. So it's important to be prepared for this kind of stuff. So just whatever you do, just make sure that you're paying attention to that weather report and stuff, and just don't put yourself in jeopardy, because some of these areas can get kind of a little hairy trying to get to some of them as far as what kind of beating you may take if you're coming around from Copano Bay Bridge or if you're launching from the little 188 sand ramp. So it's all stuff to factor into your scheduling day and how you're going to go about it. So anyhow, the big thing is dress warm and be safe out on the water.